The day Karen Vanderpaul decided that my family's century-old lake belonged to her precious son was the day she signed the death warrant for her own fake reputation. She just didn't know it yet. It was 6 a.m. 3 police cruisers were screaming up my driveway, gravel exploding under their tires like machine gun fire, shattering the morning mist and the smell of the black coffee still warm in my hands. And there she was, standing next to a pristine white Range Rover that had never seen a speck of dirt, the HOA president herself, filming me with her phone, her face twisted into a look of sick, triumphant glee as the cops surrounded my porch. She had called them to report me for trespassing on the very land my great-grandfather homesteaded in 1887. Her son, a half-baked influencer named Braden, had been charging strangers $200 a pop to fish in my private lake, the same water where my grandmother's ashes rest. When I put a stop to it, Karen whipped out forged documents claiming I was illegally blocking community access. But Karen had made one fatal mistake, a mistake that would cost her everything she owned. She had no clue that I was the one controlling the budget for every single utility service, keeping her perfect little subdivision running. My name is Lucas Blackwood, and this is the story of how a suburban HOA princess tried to steal my family's soul and learned exactly why you never mess with a rancher who knows his rights. Let's rewind a bit, back to this 2,400-acre slice of Montana paradise, carved from the wilderness by my great-grandfather Silas back in the late 19th century. That 12-acre spring-fed lake is the heart of Ironwood Ranch, the place where 4 generations of Blackwoods have been born, raised, and laid to rest. I'm 45, divorced, living alone since my daughter Maya left for college. I've been working this land since I could hold the reins, and I plan to die here. I never imagined that some HOA royalty would declare war on everything my family built. Everything changed 5 years ago. A developer bought the adjacent section, promising rural harmony, while jamming 200 cookie-cutter McMansions onto postage stamp lots. They called it Golden Oak Estates. Like a neighborly idiot, I signed an easement allowing their emergency vehicles to cross my land if necessary. That was when Karen Vanderpaul slithered into my life like a designer-dressed rattlesnake. Late 40s, expensive highlights, wife of a bank VP, the kind of woman who pronounces agriculture like it's a contagious disease. Her complaints started immediately. My cattle smelled, disrupting her dinner parties. My native grasses looked unsightly from her kitchen window. Could I mow them down to make things look more professional? I laughed in her face. Big mistake. Then, her golden boy Braden, a 22-year-old with the work ethic of roadkill and an ego the size of the Rockies, discovered my lake. He started dragging his friends over for content creation. Diesel trucks rumbling at dawn, beer bottles glinting in the cattails, electronic music drowning out bird songs that predated his entire bloodline. My tolerance turned into trespassing, and trespassing turned into a business. He brought in drones, professional cameras, charging people $300 for exclusive wilderness access. He posted it all on Instagram like he'd inherited the place from his ancestors. The stench of entitlement was worse than fresh manure. When I kicked them out, Karen played her trump card, or so she thought. One evening, she knocked on my door with that patronizing smile that makes your skin crawl. She slapped a manila folder on my kitchen table. "Lucas," she said, her voice dripping with fake concern. "I've done some historical research. The original township papers include recreational water rights for residents. We must respect community traditions." She pointed at the official-looking stamps with her manicured claws. "But I've read enough legal documents to spot an amateur forgery a mile away." Her papers referenced Golden Oak Township. Cute. Except her subdivision didn't exist until 2019. My ranch has been here for 132 years. But I remembered my grandfather's advice. When someone hands you fake papers, let them think you're falling for it while you gather evidence of the fraud. I played the confused rancher. I photographed every page. Her smile faltered. "Surely that's unnecessary," she said. But the coffee in my cup had gone cold. She left, thinking kindness was weakness. She thought rural meant stupid. She didn't realize that Montana ranchers don't just know the land, we know the law. And when someone tries to steal your heritage with forged papers, you don't just defend yourself. You destroy them completely. Karen didn't waste time. She weaponized the entire county bureaucracy. A week later, A county inspector knocked on my door, looking embarrassed as hell. "Sorry, Lucas. Got a formal complaint about illegal water access restrictions." We walked the property. He knew it was horseshit. My documentation was perfect, but he still had to file the report, creating the paper trail she wanted. The real gut punch came next. Karen organized a community safety meeting. She stood in front of a poster-sized map, telling 15 newcomers that my cattle were contaminating their children's watershed. She painted me as an unhinged, feudal warlord terrorizing their peaceful valley. The lies burned, but the financial rumors cut deeper. Whispers started circulating that I was broke, that the ranch was failing, that I'd sell to developers any day now. In ranch country, that's character assassination. It was time to fight back. I hired the best surveyor in the county. We used GPS to map the boundaries and found out Karen's pristine fence actually encroached 3 feet onto my land for 200 yards. Next came the security cameras. 8 high-definition units with night vision and cloud backup hidden in the trees. Within days, we struck gold. Saturday morning, Braden arrived with a full film crew, lights, boom mics, a catering truck. They were shooting an energy drink commercial. I could hear him clearly on the audio feed. "Yeah, this is my family's lake. Been coming here since I was a kid." The kid was born in Phoenix. But watching the footage revealed something colder. Braden wasn't just lying. He was running a full-scale commercial operation. His Instagram had exploded to 50,000 followers. Dozens of wannabe influencers were paying him cash to trample my pastures. My prize bull, Augustus, stopped eating because of the constant stress. Then came the mini twist. Braden posted a time-lapse video of himself building a rustic wooden dock on my property to charge clients extra for the authentic experience. The video had 30,000 likes, but I had every second of that illegal construction on 4K video, plus audio of him discussing his profit margins. That evening, sipping whiskey on my porch, I realized Karen had made a fundamental miscalculation. She assumed I would roll over. She was about to learn that foundations built on lies crumble fast, especially when you control the demolition. The war didn't just stay at the fence line. Karen brought it to my front door. The following Tuesday, 3 neighbors knocked on my door. Good people, or so I thought. Bob Wilson, a guy I'd helped round up strays with, looked at his boots, ashamed. "Lucas, we're filing a joint nuisance complaint," he mumbled. "The HOA says the smell and noise violate community standards." I knew Karen had gotten to him. She had convinced them that my ranch, which predated their subdivision by a century, was somehow tanking their property values. But Karen's next move was pure, distilled evil. I was checking fence lines when my phone buzzed. Sheriff's dispatch. Domestic disturbance call. Threats of violence. My stomach dropped. The address was mine. Deputy Miller arrived, body cam rolling, hand near his holster. "Lucas, we got a call. Lady says you threatened her. Implied physical violence." "Which lady?" I asked, though I knew. "Karen Vanderpaul. Says you told her to stay off the land, or else." Made threatening gestures. I almost laughed. Almost. Because in today's world, an accusation like that sticks. But I remembered my training. "Deputy, I have cameras covering every inch of this property. When did this happen?" He checked his notes. "Yesterday, 4 p.m. I pulled out my phone, opened the cloud app. "Let's take a look." The footage was beautiful. It showed Karen screaming at me from her side of the fence, while I stood 15 feet away, speaking calmly, hands visible. Miller watched it, shaking his head. He wrote in his report, "Complainant's statement contradicts video evidence." But he warned me. Karen is filing for a restraining order. Even if it gets thrown out, it creates a record that you're dangerous. She was trying to bury me in legal fees and destroy my reputation. I countered immediately. I filed a harassment complaint with 47 documented incidents and hired Elena Rossi, the state's top water rights attorney. $5,000 up front, but she confirmed it. My 1887 homestead patent gave me absolute water rights. No HOA could touch them. Karen wasn't done. She went for the financial jugular. My insurance carrier called, threatening to drop me because the HOA claimed my lake was an attractive nuisance, legal speak for a danger to the public. Then she went to the press. Channel 7 News aired a story. Wealthy rancher denies lake access to community children. She staged a photo op with kids holding signs at my fence. A GoFundMe page titled Save Public Access raised $12,000 in 2 days. People online were calling me a monster, threatening to burn down my barn. Then came the sabotage. Saturday morning, my water pump system failed catastrophically. The electrical lines had been severed, the control panel smashed. $8,000 in damages right in the middle of a heat wave. My cattle had no water. My cameras caught shadows at 2 a.m., figures in hoodies, driving a truck with a lift kit and tread pattern that matched Braden's exactly. But because the sheriff was buddies with Karen's husband, they said there was insufficient evidence. I was cornered. Bleeding money. Isolated. That's when my daughter, Maya, a journalism major with a nose for blood, started digging. She found dirt. Karen had been fired from a previous realty job for falsifying documents. Her husband's bank was facing a federal audit. But the real dynamite, the real weapon, was buried in my own house. I was digging through my grandfather's old filing cabinet, looking for pump schematics, when I found a yellowed manila folder marked Rural Service District, Cedar Ridge County, 1962. Inside were documents that made my hands tremble. Back in the 60s, the state created special districts to provide services to remote areas. Because Ironwood Ranch was the largest landholding, it was designated the anchor parcel. The original agreement stated that the owner of the ranch, me, was automatically the district administrator. I had been the legal administrator of the entire region's service district for 3 years, and I had no idea. The powers were staggering. I had the authority to approve or deny all municipal service contracts, police patrols, fire response, road maintenance, even for the subdivision. More importantly, I had the right to audit the books. I called my accountant friend, Dave. We pulled the public records. When Dave saw the numbers, he turned pale. Jesus, Lucas, look at this. My ranch paid 60% of the district's taxes, about $200,000 a year. The entire HOA subdivision paid only 40%. For 5 years, I had been funding my own persecution. Every time Karen called the cops on me, I was paying for the gas in the cruiser. But it got worse. Criminal worse. Karen and her husband had been looting the fund. They were billing the district $400,000 annually for enhanced security, paid to a company owned by Karen's brother-in-law. The actual cost should have been $80,000. They were using public tax money, my money, to pay for their private pool maintenance, their clubhouse landscaping, even the lighting for their tennis courts, labeling it emergency road illumination. They had stolen nearly $2 million over 5 years. I sat there, staring at the papers. This wasn't just a property dispute anymore. This was a felony. I called a war counsel, Elena, lawyer, Dave, accountant, and Maya. We mapped out a 3-phase attack. Phase 1, formal notification. Assert my authority. Phase 2, termination of services. Phase 3, the public execution. I sent the letter via certified mail. Effective immediately, all service district expenditures require administrator approval. An audit is underway. Karen's panic was immediate and spectacular. She called an emergency HOA meeting, screaming that a domestic terrorist was holding their safety hostage. She hired a crisis PR firm using more stolen public funds, $37,000. She launched a smear campaign so vile that the IRS, EPA, and animal control were flooded with anonymous tips about me. Braden posted a tearful video claiming I had threatened to make him disappear. It went viral. Death threats poured into my inbox. But while they played dirty online, I was building a cage. My security cameras picked up movement again. Thursday night. Braden's truck. 3 figures. They weren't just vandalizing this time. They were cutting my fence lines at the highway access point. They wanted my cattle to wander onto the road, cause an accident, and frame me for negligence. But I had upgraded the system. Infrared. And audio. I heard one voice clearly. Make it look like the crazy rancher lost his mind. Mom says this needs to look dangerous. We let them cut the wire, then immediately patched it before any animals got out. But we had the footage. We had the conspiracy. And Karen? She had just scheduled a public county commissioner hearing to demand the state seize my land under eminent domain. She thought she was walking into her coronation. She had no idea she was walking into a slaughter. Thursday afternoon. The Highland County Commissioner's meeting room was packed beyond fire code capacity. It smelled of nervous sweat, stale coffee, and impending doom. Local TV crews were there. Live streamers were there. The room was split down the middle like a wedding from hell. On the left, Ranchers, old-timers, people who knew the land. On the right, the Golden Oak residents, angry, confused, terrified about the emergency assessment bills I had sent them the day before. Karen sat at the front table with 3 high-priced lawyers, whispering frantically. I sat alone with Elena. On our table sat a stack of binders, color-coded and thick enough to stop a bullet. Commissioner Susan Hayes banged the gavel. We are here to address allegations regarding the Rural Service District. Mr. Blackwood, you have the floor. I stood up slowly. I felt the weight of my grandfather, my great-grandfather, all of them standing behind me. Commissioners, I said, my voice cutting through the silence. What I am about to present isn't just a neighbor dispute. It is the largest case of municipal fraud in the history of this county. I dropped the first bomb, the 1962 documents. Karen's lawyer tried to object, but Hayes shut him down. Sit down, counselor. Mr. Blackwood has the floor. Then came the numbers. I projected the spreadsheets onto the wall. $200,000 of my money, annually, diverted to their private slush fund. The security contracts inflated by 500%. The pool chemicals billed as public safety infrastructure. The room buzzed. Karen shifted in her seat, her face pale. But, I continued, the fraud didn't stop at the bank. I played the video. Braden. The footage from his own Instagram, side by side with my security cam footage. Braden bragging about making $47,000 in 3 months selling access to my land, while reporting zero income to the IRS. Then, the infrared video of the fence cutting. The audio of the conspiracy. The ghasts in the room sucked the air out of the building. And finally, the mic drop. The nuclear option. Last Saturday, I said. Mrs. Vanderpaul approached me. I hit play. The recording boomed over the speakers. Karen's voice, shrill and desperate. Lucas, look, I can make this go away. $50,000 cash. Just drop the legal action. We can work something out. Maybe there were some accounting errors, just misunderstandings. The bribe. Recorded on my body cam. I looked at Karen. She was staring at the table, a statue of ruin. Commissioner, I said. That was Mrs. Vanderpaul offering me $50,000 of stolen tax money to cover up a felony. The dam broke. Margaret, the neighbor who had signed the complaint against me, stood up, tears streaming down her face. She threatened us. Margaret screamed. She said if we didn't sign, her husband's bank would foreclose on our homes. It was over. The commissioners voted unanimously. They terminated every contract with Karen's shell companies. They referred the case to the FBI and the state attorney general. As the meeting adjourned, Sheriff Collins, who finally saw which way the wind was blowing, walked up to Karen. Mrs. Vanderpaul, I need you to come with me. She was arrested right there, in her designer suit, handcuffed in front of the neighbors she had lied to. Braden was picked up an hour later, trying to flee the county. 6 months later, justice tastes like black coffee on a quiet porch. Karen is serving 18 months in federal prison for wire fraud and embezzlement. She was ordered to pay $400,000 in restitution. Her husband's bank collapsed under the audit. They lost everything. The house, the Range Rover, seized. Braden got 5 years probation, community service, and a lifetime ban from monetizing social media. His influencer career is dead. But the money, the $500,000 settlement I won, that wasn't the victory. The victory was the Blackwood Accord. The new HOA board, made up of decent people, signed a permanent agreement recognizing my property rights. I used the settlement money to establish the Rural Heritage Protection Fund, a legal war chest to help other ranchers fight corrupt HOAs. I stood by the lake this morning. The invasive weeds are gone. The water is clear. The meadowlarks are back, singing songs that don't have to compete with techno music. My daughter Maya was there, teaching a group of environmental science students about watershed protection. My grandfather was right. The land teaches patience, but it also teaches justice. When someone tries to steal your history, you don't just fight for the dirt. You fight for the soul of the place. So, here's the question I leave you with. In a world obsessed with image, with likes and views, how many other Karens are out there, bullying people with fake authority? And how many of you are sitting on power you don't even know you have? If this story made you fist pump, smash that like button. Drop a comment below if you've ever had an HOA nightmare. I read all of them. And subscribe, because next week, I'm telling the story of how a retired schoolteacher took down a corrupt school board with nothing but a calculator and a public records request. The land endures. Justice prevails. And Montana ranchers? We don't back down. I'm Lucas Blackwood. Thanks for watching.